All right. How you doing, man? It's been a while since we've actually talked.
Yeah, I'm doing well, and you, how you doing?
Good, good, good. I'm really better than ever, really. Yeah, yeah. With the getting shut down and everything, I really had to take care of myself better. I started going into suicide and my brain went crazy. And and so I had to really think about it and go, well, what do I need to do to make my life worth living. And so I've done a lot of things. So my life is great, but very intentionally. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. How about yourself? How you been doing?
I've been doing well. I had hard times too, but I quit drugs and I feel better now. I'm clean.
I was gonna say, I think we're both much more sober than we were last time we talked because in the past there was a lot, specifically for me, specifically stimulants. Stimulants really are the thing that drives me crazy. Is cocaine and amphetamines and uh, Adderall and all that.
Yeah, me too, cocaine.
Yeah, but I love it, but but I can't have it. It's a it's like a poison that I love. Same with opium.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, yeah. What would you like to talk about today? Let's jump into it.
So I would like to ask you some questions that I've written. Like first, I wanted to say I'm very honored to make this interview with you, the co-founder of Become a Living God. And my first question is simply, how did you first come to magic?
Who I would say the first time that I really well, let me think about this. The first time I tried to do anything magical, I was five years old, and I had a blanket. I had a blanket that I'd had when I was a baby that I now have given to my daughter. That was my special safety blanket, and so I would put that around my shoulders and clip it in front, so it was like a cape behind me, and then I would get any random book and put it in front of me like it was a spell book, and I would grab a wand, just any random any kind of stick that would work for a wand, and I would try to summon spirits up using the book and the wand, and as 5 years old, this is, and I didn't have access to to TV or to movies. We were really sheltered, really hardcore Christian family, so so I don't know where that was coming from, but even at 5 years old, I was like trying to work this out. The first time I think that I actually did anything that was real, though, because that was engaging my imagination as a child. But when I was like 12 years old, I started playing with the Ouija board, and that's where things started with me for real. As far as actually speaking with spirits, and then using, speaking with them off of the Ouija board, and it kind of all went south from there.
Okay, I have a second question. I know one of your first intense grimoire you read was the Necronomicon Simon. What did you find out in it, and what it changed in your life?
No, that's a great question. Yeah, you're right. Simon's Necronomicon was the first grimoire I came across, and I didn't know at that time, because I was 16 years old at that point. I didn't know that there were multiple different grimoires, and so I just figured this that I figured that it was literally true, and that all I had to do was perform the ritual it's given in the book. I think the biggest thing I learned is that that's not necessarily the case. Because I would read the conjurations, and I even got this. I had my buddy make me a metal sword that had the engravings on it. I had all the stuff, and I did all this. I did all the steps right, and I could feel something there, but it wasn't what I was looking for. It wasn't. it wasn't intense enough until I started, I think, making the adjustment of putting my inner mind and inner vision into the experience. What I got out of it, well, so once and it wasn't just me experimenting with this, it was myself and three of my friends. And as we started playing with this magic together, and we were just in high school, we smoked pot together and went to movies together. We were just regular friends. But as I started learning magic, I started sharing it with everyone, and so the group of us became a magic circle where we would perform rituals together. Each of us had an element that was very particular to us that we would stand in for our rituals, and it was really a beautiful period of time in my magical development. But with that, we all started really using the Necronomicon intensely, and specifically calling upon Enki. So we would do the conjuration of the Watchers, and specifically focusing on Enki. And we could feel Enki there more powerfully probably than any other spirit. He's said to be one of the very first entities that's ever existed, and you could feel his ancientness. But at one point, after calling him multiple times, we'd go up to a specific mountain area and whatever. After doing this multiple times, we all four of us started really getting a relationship with Enki, to the point that we asked him, "Give us your priesthood, and so that we can call upon you without ritual, so we can just call upon you wherever we're at." And he said, so we go up to the circle, we go up, and there's like I said, a specific mountain area that was just like a hill above my friend's house. We go hiking up there, lay the circle down, and get the sword out, do the whole ritual calling of the Watcher. And as the Watcher, well, the presence shows up, we could feel like a dark shadow kind of off in the I don't remember what way we're facing. I think northeast. So we're facing north. So yeah, northeast. We could feel just like a gravity there. And then we each step up one at a time and just say, give I accept your priesthood. Give me your priesthood. And each of us would feel, as we stepped up one at a time, would feel a set of hands grab our shoulders and pushed us to the ground. And for me, it pushed me to the ground so hard I actually bruised my knee pretty bad. I was limping home. But he pushed me to the ground, and I could hear a language I've never heard before, never heard since, almost like being chanted over the wind, just rah 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 rah. And as I'm hearing this voice, I see all of civilization being destroyed by fire. Just a way, like almost like a wall of fire, just going across the entire world and destroying everything.
Intense.
And then go what?
Intense.
Very intense, extremely. And when I come out of it, I'm like gasping for breath and going, "Whoa, what the fuck?" And my friends had, not everybody had that same experience, but everybody had some sort of apocalyptic vision, and every one of us felt him push us down to our knees and then place his hands on our head while this chanting was going on. Now, what was crazy though was after that, at any point, and I haven't done this for years, so I would be surprised, I would be interested to experiment with this and see if it still works. But for years after that, all you'd have to do is say, "By the power of Enki, by the priesthood of Enki, by which I have been ordained, I ask that," and you can say anything. Just ask for anything. Like at that time, I'm in high school. My mom was not wanting me to stay out and hang out with my friends. She's like, "You're devil, worshiping the devil and doing drugs with your friends." I'm like, "Yeah, that is exactly what we're doing." And so I didn't do any ritual or anything. I just closed my eyes and I said, "By the power of Enki and by the priesthood of Enki, I command that my mom will not care about what I do at all tonight." And so it is done. Boom. And then I call her back, and literally it was like 2 minutes later, I call her back and I'm like, "Hey, I was just seeing," and she's like, "You know what? I just don't care. I don't care what you do. I don't care at all." And I'm like, "What?" And like actually that was like a significant change in my relationship with my mom, because all of a sudden I just started using witchcraft to make her leave me alone. But that was the start of it, and so I could just do like just about anything that I wanted, and just focus on it and call it out loud, and it would come about. So that would be, I would say that was the most remarkable change that the Necronomicon brought
Okay.
me. Yeah, and really, and to kind of just quickly dissect that a little bit, um, I think the fact that that worked so well is because I believed it would, because I had externalized that. As long as I was saying it's not me that's making the miracle happen, but it's Enki. I'm doing this in his name. That allowed me to not be attached to the outcome, maybe, and so maybe that's why I could get things to work so well with that. I mean, because I do think that there was that connection with Enki, but also like when I think about it, the intensity of the things we were able to make happen, it was really intense. And I think it was kind of that, from being so new in the occult at that point, not judging myself at all and just kind of throwing myself into it. I think that's probably why that was so successful.
Right. Okay. Very early, you had the ability to see spirits, even with a Ouija board. What was your first impression when you found it out?
I'm sorry, could you give me that question one more time?
Very early, you had the ability to see spirits with a Ouija board, although your friends weren't seeing them. What was your first impression when you saw them for the first time?
Who, and I wouldn't say early on, because it took me actually a few years of really like doing evocations all the time. I would, I would come home and I would go to work 8 to 10 hour day, and then come home when I was 18 years old to this little apartment I was renting, and I would get out this black mirror, and I would just gaze into it for hours. I would just sit there and not seeing anything, trying to see, and I was actually gazing into my scrying mirror so much that it was messing up my physical vision, and I had to have a doctor tell me to stop doing it so much. And he didn't understand. I was like, "Yeah, I'm looking into a black mirror for 3 hours a day," and he's like, "Why are you doing that?" But I was desperately trying to see them. Now, a couple things happened. A couple things happened that really changed it for me, and that's one is that I was all over, because there weren't that many good resources for magic or anything at that point, and so I would go onto different forums and chat rooms and talk to people there about their magic. And so I'd say, I'm trying to learn how to scry. I've got my scrying mirror out. I've got it leaning this at this angle. I've got candles on the sides, and I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. It's not working. And a bunch of people kept giving me the advice: blow the candles out. Stop relying on your physical vision. Blow the candles out and sit in the darkness. And there in the darkness, your vision's going to open. Now that didn't make sense to me, because I was young, I was stupid, I wasn't aware that you could see without your eyes. And so that was the first step. The second step was Lucifer. When I started working with Lucifer when I was 19 years old, I fully committed myself to Lucifer, gave my life 100% to him, sold my soul to him. And part of this is that he started showing me spirits. First was himself. The first spirit I actually saw was Paimon, and that was in that scrying mirror, and that was like a sudden flash in this evocation. All of a sudden, I'm looking full on at King Paimon, and he looked like he looked ugly. Like, it's the ugliest form I've ever seen him take. Because usually Paimon will take a beautiful form, a young kind of prince or whatever. But in this one, he was on this throne that's the throne's made of snakes, and I can see it moving. And he's covered in warts and blisters, and it's like his warts and blisters are like popping and pussing all over his body and face. This voice comes not from the mirror though. The voice comes. So I'm seeing him in the mirror, but his voice comes from above me, saying, "Who do you think you are to have called me here?" And um, and I'm like, "Oh shit, this is the real thing. This is what everybody always talks about. Here it is." And so I remembered all of the things I had learned from Crowley, and I said, it is not I who calls you, but it is I can't remember which god names I use, but vibrated several different uh, Jehovah type of god names, and that did bring the whole thing under control. But then there was a bit of a gap where I didn't really see any spirits, I didn't really have any experiences until I started working with Lucifer, and then he just blasted the doors wide open. But it was, the real switch that I had to make is I had to understand that my eyes are not going to see them. Your eyes can see phenomena. You can catch little glimpses of things with your eyes, maybe for a flash. But if you want to have a sustained contact with the spirit, your eyes aren't doing that work. It's the inner vision, it's the third eye that does that work. And so you're just as good, like everybody was telling me when I was a kid, you're just as good to shut the lights off and sit in darkness, and there you'll have the actual best communion.
Okay. When you met Lucifer in a child form, what does he wanted from you?
You gotta give me that to me one more time. Sorry.
In your mastering evocation course, you said that you saw Lucifer as a child.
Oh yeah.
Did he want something from you?
That's an interesting question. No, Lucifer is a child. So that was, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That was the very first form that Lucifer took, was, I would say, an 8-year-old child. Some people see him with blonde hair. I did not. I saw him with honestly, it looked like an 8-year-old version of Connor Kendall. If anybody knows what Connor Kendall looks like, make him 8 years old, and that was Lucifer, 100%. Kind of a similar short, like brown haircut, and but black eyes, black eyes, and well, no, that wasn't actually the first form. That was the second form he took. The first form was a dragon, and when I say it was a dragon, like, it was in my mind's eye. I could feel a darkness, and well, not even in my mind's eye, with my eyes open and everything. I could see and feel a darkness coming into my room while I was calling on Lucifer. And then in my mind's eye, I could see him like a dragon that was over my house, the entire house I was living in, and he was breathing his vapors into the house. And so I sat with that and went, what? And then almost instantly, as I sat with it, oh, that's what happened, is as I sat with it, I said, I welcome you into my home. And then instantly, that's when it became the child, and then appeared. He didn't really want anything. He I mean, look, it's what all the demons want. He wanted to wake me up. He wanted to wake me up. Like, that's what he was there for. I was ready to wake up, and he absolutely did that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think he told you to go to Las Vegas. How did you know it was just not your imagination? How could you be sure something was waiting for you in Las Vegas?
because because I was given no choice. I mean, once you say yes to Lucifer or Satan or to any of these major demons, once you tell them that you're in, at that point they'll drag you if they have to, and so that's actually what happened. So Lucifer said, "I need you to go to Vegas," and going to Vegas had several different things there. For one, I was breaking out of the life that I'd had. I was accepting my place. I was trusting. There was going to be a lot of trust. But here's the thing: is like, for Lucifer told me, go to Vegas, and for about 6 months, I argued with him, and I'm like, no, I've got to do this instead. And whatever excuse I would use, that thing would go away. and so, until it was the house I was living in, the job I had, the car that I loved, until I had absolutely nothing. And then my adoptive sister there shows up on my doorstep and says, "Hey, do you want to move to Vegas? I've got a spare bedroom." And so it wasn't even like, it wasn't even that it required a leap of faith for me. Lucifer said, "Do it," and then there was no other choice but to do it. And then all of the pathway was made that okay, all I had to do was get my clothes and get in the car. And this is how it's been constantly through my whole life. As these spirits speak to me, they tell me to do something. I'll kind of complain, I'll find excuses why I can't, and meanwhile they start making things happen that makes it unavoidable. And so then when I end up in Vegas, yeah, I meet with met with the craziest, so in some good ways and bad ways, people ever. Lucifer has a lot of worshipers, and some of those worshipers are drug addicts and pedophiles. Some of those worshipers are lawyers and doctors and wonderful people. You know, it was really an amazing thing to like see. But extremes, like every single person that I met that Lucifer introduced me to was extreme. It's not like just some little doctor, like the best doctor in Vegas. One of the best doctors in Vegas is absolutely a Luciferian. Some of the best, the absolute best stage magicians are Luciferians. So or Satanists or black magicians, but like this is one of the things that Lucifer did start showing me is we black magicians, we're everywhere. Like, you know, we used to think that it was just, honestly, I used to feel completely alone. And now I'm just seeing, like, no matter what industry you look into, the most elite people and the poorest people and everywhere in between, we got black magicians there.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. How did you come to the decision to write books and read tarot?
No, that's great. Well, you know, so the writing books and the reading tarot I think are different subjects really entirely. I was always writing since since I since I very first could. Since I very first learned how to write, I was writing poems, I was writing stories, writing articles. I first started writing my first like detective novel when I was like 12. It was about this detective that wakes up on Valentine's Day. And so he's got like, and it comes out, it's a ridiculous story. It's a ridiculous story. I wrote a bunch of ridiculous stuff, but I always wanted to be a writer. But I could never really find the thing to write about. I'd write a little mythology, a little like erotica, a little this, a little that. But then when I found magic, that's when I knew this is what I'm doing. This is what it's all about. Like I've been given this gift of writing so that way I can write about magic. And so when I was 18 years old, I started writing my first book on magic called Entering the Gates of Magic. That book, I actually ended up throwing it away. I wish I hadn't done that, but I did. I but I got about 30,000 words into it, so about a third of the way done, and it was a decent book, an introductory book on magic, but that I remember like because I was 18 years old, I was living right next to the college in the local college town, so I got college kids that are partying next to me. I've got the stoner dropouts that never went to college, but they're living there to party. And all these parties are going on around me while I'm at my computer, clack, 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 just typing away on magic. And I have, you know, girls that are being like, "Hey, come party," and I'm like, "No, I got to write about magic. I got to write about this. I got to do rituals." It's like I've always put this above everything else, and as like an obsession. So I think that's how that kind of started. As far as tarot, you know, doing tarot readings or doing magic at all for people, that's always been something that just came out of like requests. Like I'd be reading tarot for myself, and somebody else would start seeing it and go, "Hey, what are you doing? Can you read for me?" "Yeah, sure." So I would just start doing that at parties, or like I said, I was always a weird. I've always been a weird person. I'd carry my tarot cards with me. read for people at parties, read for people at Denny's, at diners and stuff. Um, and then eventually, like not even eventually, pretty quickly, people just started paying me. Like whatever the things I was saying, the things I was seeing in the cards was so profound that people pretty quickly insisted on paying me, and so kind of again was downhill from there.
Okay. A few years ago, you created the Ordo Essentium Eternalis. What made you stop it?
Another great question. Yeah, I started the Ordo Sensum Aeternalis in 2001, and one thing is that I would say it's not something that I created. It's something that was given to me because I was doing soul travel, I was doing evocation, I was putting all these pieces of everything together, and all of these specifically ascended masters started coming to me and showing me this initiatic system of the 18 flames and the specifically the flame system. So what it is the idea is we are all God. We are all 100% God, but we have shut down our memory of being God. And so the idea is that through the 18 flame system, each flame that you receive reignites that aspect of God and breaks that barrier. And so it's 18 barriers being broken on your way to godhood, and at the final barrier, there's no more barriers. And I can attest to that being very true. So why did I shut it down? I shut it down. I shut it down at the same time I started honestly, it was about the same time I started doing Become a Living God. That it was a decision that I made to and even before that, to go to walk back a couple years before I actually shut it down. I started passing off a lot of the responsibilities to different high initiates, people who had risen through the ranks and for years had worked their way through it. So I started having them do a lot of the lessons and teachings and everything. When I started Become a Living God, I actually got a really clear, I don't know, a vision or an inspiration. I had a knowing that I needed to shut it down. That the feeling I got was that it wasn't serving the best interest of people who were joining it. That people who were joining it were looking for magical secrets. They were looking for things that I could deliver, I think, in a better way through Become a Living God. And so I guess in my mind, like the things that I had done through the OAA were preparatory for me to creating Become a Living God, but Become a Living God is the greater way of disseminating this knowledge, I think. So yeah, so it was basically replacing a not very good system with a better system.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
I'm sorry, I don't have a premium account, so I have to terminate the interview in 10 minutes.
Okay.
So
Well, I
I
actually have to
won't be
jump.
able to ask all my questions, but I'm gonna ask the most interesting ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be happy to come back on and do this again. Go ahead and post this up wherever you want to post it, and then hit me up and we'll do a number 2.
Okay. A few months ago, you've been banished from a lot of social media platforms. How did you endure this unfair situation?
Yeah, so yeah, I've like you say, a few months ago, and at this point, almost a year ago, I started experiencing a full-on media attack, a media witch hunt by BBC and then Fox News, basically the different news outlets that are really Christian, conservative, and paranoid. That they really locked onto me as being um, well, really, they locked onto me as being somehow responsible for a psychotic person in England killing a couple people and calling it a demonic sacrifice or a demonic pact.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing with that is that he didn't use magic. Like you can look at the way this kid did this entire the murders, the pact, none of that was real magic. That was all just make believe psychosis. And that's very clear from that. And it's also clear he didn't follow any of my instructions because my instructions don't tell people to kill people.
No.
But but regardless, that the BBC specifically wanted to run with this story. Now there were people inside the BBC that told them that it was a fake story, to not run with it. They didn't care. They wanted to run with it. They had been paid to do this. So the BBC was basically paid to shut me down. I think that's because my voice was getting too strong. My message was getting out there to too many people,
Okay.
and they wanted to shut me down. And they were hoping that I would just go away, that I would go hide, and I'm not a hider. So yeah. So that's how I got through it, is understanding this is a war. This is a war. It's a
Yeah.
war on freedom. It's a war on your thoughts. It's a war on your religion. And I'm happy to fight that war. So that's how I got through it. Is realizing this isn't just about poor me. No, this is a war, and I'm here to fight.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
Now you are on Odyssey and you keep going building your empire. Are you satisfied of this new adventure in your career?
You know, I'm satisfied with absolutely everything. It's well, here's the biggest fulfillment for me, is I know that I'm walking my most authentic path. Like I know that I'm being guided. I know that I'm in alignment with the spiritual forces that I worship, and I know that they're guiding me to becoming better and having a better and better life and world all the time. So yeah, no, I'm very inspired, encouraged, and with everything, every obstacle that comes is a new opportunity for me to learn how to do something new or to conquer new areas. And things have gotten shaken up, and it has made me have to readjust and figure out how to build this empire better. And for me, what that means is expanding more. So we're going to start working with more people from South America to give you Kimbanda, the secrets of Santeria. We're going to start working with people in Cuba and Colombia to show you Palo Mayombe. We're going to start spreading out and give you real secrets. Like we've been playing small at this point, just with ceremonial magic and this kind of stuff. It's about to go worldwide. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that seems great.
Yeah.
Here's my last question, and we're gonna conclude the interview. What advice could you give to all black magicians to keep going their craft and not renounce with people telling them they are evil and crazy to such practices?
Yeah, great. Another great question. Yeah, I'll tell you what, you've asked some really great questions. I appreciate it. The biggest thing I tell black magicians, or anybody, the advice I've got anybody who cares about my advice, is to go all the way in on you. Trust yourself before anybody else. Don't worry about checking if the internet thinks that you're right. Trust yourself. If you call Azazel and Azazel tells you something, write it in your book and believe that. Believe that beyond what I say, beyond what anybody else on the internet says. That's your relationship with these spirits, and people have got to really just start trusting that. That really is where you're going to start tapping into supernatural power, is when you understand that you are the source of it all.
Okay. To conclude this interview, I would like to recommend the Wealth Magic spell book that you wrote in collaboration with Connor Kendall. That is a priceless guide for prosperity and wealth. And myself, Enocious, have opened recently a website that offers resources of rituals for hire that is called pyramidmagic.com. So come visit and book your ritual for 50% off all the website and cheap tarot reading. a big thank you to E.A Koetting for your time and dedication to the amazing universe of black magic. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, just to really quickly plug the Black Magician's Handbook for anybody who wants to get into black magic and you don't know where to start. Black Magician's Handbook is going to be out later this month, September 27th, bog.co/handbook. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome,
Thank
John.
you.
Great talking to you.
Bye.
Bye.